and a very warm welcome to yet another scintillating edition of the program CAC Weekly, a weekly program that keeps you abreast on the activities and the achievement of the Corporate Affairs Commission. My name is Amina Jibril. Now, coming up on the program, issued share capital comes on the focus. Plus, we shall take you on a journey on how to register a limited liability partnership seamlessly online. But that will be right after this break. Do stay with us.
Another thing that is coming very soon is change of members for companies limited by guarantee. Currently, there is no provision for you. After the company is registered, you can change the member through the front end. You have to submit, which we approve manually, then we update the system. That is also being brought to the front end. And change of PSC as well. So a lot of things are happening, and we think for you because it's our responsibility.
Welcome back to the program. We start off today with the innovation under the CAMA 2020, alias the game changer. Share capital. What is a share capital? Now, Investopedia.com defines share capital as the money a company raises by issuing common or preferred stock. The amount of share capital or equity financing a company has can change over time with additional public offerings. The term share capital can mean slightly different things depending on the context. Accountants have a much narrower definition, and their definition rules on the balance sheet of public companies. It means the total amount raised by the company in sales of shares. Now, here are some key takeaways on share capital. A company's share capital is the money it raises from selling common or preferred stock. Authorized share capital is the maximum amount a company has been approved to raise in a public offering. A company may opt for a new offer of stock in order to increase the share capital on its balance sheet. The Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA 2020, no doubt introduced numerous innovations that revolutionized the regulation of companies in Nigeria. Prominent amongst these changes is the mandatory requirement that the entire share capital of companies must be fully issued. Under the provisions of CAMA 1990, companies were allowed prescribed authorized share capital. 25% gets issued to shareholders, while the minimum authorized share capital for private and public companies was pegged at 10,000 naira and 500,000 naira respectively. Accordingly, the requirement to issue a minimum of 25% of authorized capital allowed companies to keep unissued shares for future allotment, while in the game changer, the CAMA 2020, the requirement for companies to have an authorized share capital has been replaced with a minimum issued share capital. Companies must now have a minimum issued share capital of 100,000 naira for private companies and 2 million naira for public companies. Now, Section 124 of CAMA 2020 provides that no company shall have a share capital which is less than its minimum issued share capital, and requires that every company with unissued shares must not later than 6 months from the commencement of CAMA 2020 issue shares up to an amount not below its minimum issued share capital. Now, CAC Weekly recalls that it was against this backdrop that the Commission on the 30th of December 2022 issued a public notice titled Late Compliance by Existing Companies with the Requirement of Issued Share Capital under the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 and the Companies Regulations 2021. It said further to the notice of the Commission dated 16th April 2021 on extension of the period for existing companies to comply with the requirement of issued share capital under the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 CAMA and the Companies Regulations CR 2021 to 31st December 2022. And in line with the last paragraph of the notice, customers and the general public are hereby reminded that any application filed in compliance with the requirement after the extended date being 31st December 2022 shall attract daily default penalty against the company and each officer of the company for every day during which the shares remained unissued after the extended date and in accordance with the Regulation 13 subsection 2 of the CR. And now to get a further insight on the new arrangement, let us join Justin Nidia Birao, the Director Compliance, in our interview segment.
Mr. Nidia Justin Birao, Director Compliance CAC, many thanks for joining us again and welcome back from the break.
Happy New Year. Thank you for having me one more time.
All right, sir. Today we're going to be looking at the issued share capital. But before we go into the nitty-gritty of what help us understand what share capital is all about.
Okay, basically, when we talk about the idea of joint stock company, it is required that joint stock company should have what is called share capital. And prior to CAMA 2020, we had 3 layers of share capital.
Okay.
We have what is called nominal share capital. We have issued share capital. And we have paid up share capital.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but we still have the issued share capital and the paid up share capital.
Yes.
Okay. So, what is the issued share capital all about?
Well, the issued share capital is the one that could technically be considered to have been allotted to members of the company, which might have been either paid for or not paid for.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about company, is it the limited or the PLC or all companies?
All limited liability companies,
Okay.
private and public.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, what about the paid up share capital?
Well, the paid up share capital is a fraction. It's a fraction of the issued share capital. You know, the way it works in practice is that you normally issue the shares, then you do what is called, what is described as call. And by call, we mean that you ask those that have been allotted the shares to pay up the amount that has been allotted to them. That is usually how what is called working capital for the company is raised.
Okay.
Yes. So the difference between paid up capital
And the issued share capital.
there is usually a difference. But where you don't have that fraction, the paid up capital could be the same as issued share capital.
What is the level of compliance so far, as far as the issued capital is concerned?
Well, like we know, if you are discussing the issue of capital generally, you recognize that there is what we call minimum share capital. And under the old legal regime, what we had was that for public companies, they were required to have 200,000 as their minimum share capital.
That's the PLC, the public company.
PLC.
Okay.
When we still had what is called nominal share capital. Then.
Okay.
Then for private companies, they were required to have a minimum of 10,000 nominal share capital. But when CAMA 2020 came into force, we noted earlier that it abolished the issue of
the nominal
share capital. So companies now are required, for public companies, they are required to have a minimum issued share capital of 2 million naira.
Okay.
Then for private companies, they are required to have a minimum issued share capital of 100,000 naira.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So these are, the requirement right now.
These are the requirements.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the transition period?
Well, for the minimum share capital, the Act provide what we call a transition period of 6 months, within which companies that don't have that amount, now talking about 2 million naira or 100,000, to increase their share capital to that minimum. But we noted for issue of the difference between what is called issued share capital and nominal share capital, that there was no such provision. So what the Commission did was to give a publication in the media to say that those companies that fall within that category should, within a period of 2 years, take a decision as to whether they will issue outstanding nominal capital or they should have them cancelled.
Okay.
And that ultimately expired.
When you say 2 years, what period to what period? Was it?
From 1st January 2021 to 31st December 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you have not done that?
Well, if you have not done that, the law prescribes penalty.
Okay. So what are these penalties?
The penalty, depending on whether it's a small or a big company.
Okay, so let's start from a small company.
A small company is a daily default penalty of 500 naira.
Okay.
For the company, for the directors, and for officers of the company.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so 500 naira daily.
Yeah, daily.
Then that will be times 365 days.
Yes, if you allow it to go to that level.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but the penalty starts from 2023, isn't it?
The penalty starts from 1st January 2023.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So this is a wake-up call, like telling people,
yes.
yeah, it's an opportunity for you to pay it up.
Initially, what the commission did for the 2 years is that they did not charge penalty.
Okay.
Yeah. So the penalty takes effect from 1st January 2023. And like you rightly said, it's a wake-up call because if it is left in that position, the penalty will continue to accumulate on a daily basis.
There seems to be so much penalties coming from the commission this year. First, it is the open beneficial register. If you have not done that, you have penalties. Now it is issued share capital. How many are people going to contend with?
Well, they are usually separate obligations.
But they are still penal, and they all have penalties attached to them.
Yes, they have penalties attached to them, and that is why we are making this enlightenment, because nobody is happy to levy penalty on corporate entities or legal entities,
especially at this time.
Especially at this time, and in line with the philosophy of ease of doing business.
Yeah.
That is why we are making this enlightenment so that operators of company can opt through their legal obligations and avoid paying such penalties.
For those who don't have up to 2 million naira, what happens to them? So they continue with the penalty?
No, they are required. They are required to increase their issued share capital now.
I know for the PLC it will be very difficult to have redundant companies who have not done anything. Maybe very few. But for the limited liability, there are a lot of limited liability companies that are not functioning. And maybe to escape penalty or the listing, they do some kind of return, yearly return, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have such case scenario.
Yes, like you rightly said, if you look at the statistics, there are more of dormant companies in the categorization of private limited liability companies. Yes. So they are, like you also said, required to file annual returns. So the idea is that even if you are not yet commenced business, you are required to file what is called nil annual return, which indicates that the company has not commenced business.
Okay.
Yeah. And by that you avoid classification of under what is now called inactive companies.
Okay, so nil, you are not paying anything?
You will pay the filing fee
of 5,000
but since you have not done any operations, you will not be required to produce financial statement.
Okay. Yeah. So let's go to the process of paying up this shared capital.
Yes.
What is the process like?
Well, like we said, when CAMA 2020 abolished the idea of nominal capital in favor of issued share capital. We noted earlier that there is a difference between the issued share capital and the paid up capital.
Yes.
So it's not a requirement that once you issue the shares, those who are allotted the shares should actually pay. The law only requires that 25% of the issued share capital is paid off. And the process for if you have less capital now is that you will be required.
I'm sorry to jump in here.
Yeah.
Are you saying 25% of the 2 million naira for a PLC?
For a PLC, yes.
So the requirement is 22 million, but
Yeah,
you are the issued share capital has to be 25% of the 2 million.
No, the paid up capital should be 25% of the issued share capital.
Sam, help me understand. Help me break it down.
Okay, the issued share capital, we said, is the shares that have been issued to individuals.
Yes.
Like you allot shares to them. Then the law allows you to allot.
Okay.
And under this legal regime now, what is recognized is only issued share capital. So once you allot the shares, you do what is called a call.
What is a call?
A call is now like a demand. You demand that those that have been allotted the shares.
Okay, for instance, let's paint a scenario. We have 4 people here.
Yeah.
And we allotted them 50-50 shares.
Yes.
That's 200.
That's 200.
Yes.
So under the law, what you'll be required to do
is to demand them.
You can demand for 25% from each one of them.
Of the 50?
Yes.
Okay.
So that will now be taken as the paid up capital if they respond positively.
Okay. And if they respond negatively, what happens?
Well, there is what we call forfeiture.
Oh.
Okay. You normally give them time within which to respond.
Okay.
So if they do not come up with the payment within that period, the company is now free to do what is called forfeiture.
Okay.
Forfeiture of the entire shares.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But from experience, between the issued share capital and the paid up share capital, which one is easier?
Which, well, technically, it's
which one is easier to handle as far as the commission is concerned? I mean,
well, technically, it's easier to handle the issue of issued share capital.
Okay.
For the fact that no money is involved.
Oh, okay.
You are just saying that on paper you have been.
Yeah, that's the issue I'm coming to. So there's no money involved. There's no naira and kobo.
There is no naira and kobo. It's only when call is made.
Okay. At what point is call made?
Well, that will be decided by the directors.
Okay.
But whatever it is required that either at registration or if they are legacy company, at every point in time, 25% of the issued share capital should be paid off, because that will be considered as the minimum requirement for working capital. But the directors could decide to ask for more percentage over and above the 20.
Before we round up, what are the advantages of this issued share capital? What are its immediate benefit?
Like, for instance, if you talk of issued share capital, it is considered actually as money that is almost in the hands of the company.
Okay.
For the reason that even if there is a balance between issued share capital and paid up capital, it is considered as a liability on the part of the shareholder.
Okay. Mr. Didier Justin Barrow, always a pleasure talking to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Great insight there from Mr. Justin. Now moving on to registration. The CAMA 2020 also brought in some new forms of business registration, and one of them is the LLP, which is a partnership arrangement with legal personality separate from the partners. The liabilities of the partners of an LLP are limited to the amount agreed to be contributed or what is outstanding in the event of winding up. An LLP shall have at least 2 designated partners who will be responsible for compliance with the requirement of the Act by the LLP. The designated partners shall be individuals, at least one of whom must be a resident in Nigeria. The name of an LLP shall end with the word Limited Liability Partnership, or the abbreviation LLP. Now join us to see how you can register an LLP seamlessly online. Come with us.
Hello, Nigeria. You can now register your Limited Liability Partnership LLP using the CAC end-to-end registration portal. It is important to know that the liabilities of the partners of an LLP are limited to the amount agreed to be contributed or what is outstanding in the event of winding up. Additionally, the designated partners shall be individuals, at least one of whom must be resident in Nigeria. This tutorial video is divided into 2 phases, which will help you navigate this process easily. Phase 1. Name reservation. First, let's find out if the name is available and reserve the name. Step 1. Log on to your dashboard using your username and password and click on New Name Reservation. Step 2. Under Name and Type, under the Classification of Business button, choose Limited Liability Partnership as the specific type. Enter your proposed names and ensure it ends with the word Limited Liability Partnership or LLP. Ensure you fill in all fields marked with a red asterisk. Click on Save and Continue. Step 3. Under Objectives, pick New Incorporation as your reason for the reservation and click on Save and Continue to preview. Step 4. Click on Pay via Remitter to proceed to payment. Step 5. On the Remitter page, click on Submit. This will bring up a list of options you can use for the payment. After making payment, you will be automatically redirected to your dashboard and your reservation will enter the pending panel. Phase 2. Registration. Now that we have reserved the name, let's now proceed to register the Limited Liability Partnership business. Step 1. On your dashboard, click on the Reserved panel. This will bring up your approval history. Step 2. Click on the Start Registration button beside the approved Limited Liability Partnership name. Step 3. Under Entity Details, enter the details of the entity and click on Save and Continue. Step 4. Under Partners Appointment, click on either the Add Individual Partners, Add Corporate Partners, or Add Minor Partners and enter the particulars of each partner. While filling the details of a partner, ensure to tick whether the partner is designated or not. Also ensure to fill the sum contributed or agreed to be contributed and other important details, then click on the Add Partner button. After adding all the partners, click on the Save and Continue button. Step 5. Under Persons with Significant Control, PSC, if there is a person who will count as a person with significant control, tick the box in A and add the details of the person, whether natural or legal entity. If otherwise, tick the box in B, then click the Save and Continue button to proceed. Step 6. Under Partnership Agreement, enter the details and information of the witness to the agreement and click the Add Witness button. Then proceed by either clicking on the Add Partnership Agreement or Adopt Default Partnership Agreement button. Click on Save and Continue. Step 7. Under Document Upload, scan the means of identification chosen in Step 4 above for all the partners in one PDF file and upload it by clicking the Upload button. Upload the scanned versions of the signature of each partner and witnesses. Click on Save and Continue to preview your entries. Step 8. When you have verified your entries, click on Proceed to Payment to pay for your registration. Remember to remain on the remitter page after you have received a confirmation of payment. You will be automatically redirected to your dashboard where you can download your receipt. When your registration has been approved, your certificate will be automatically generated on your registered panel where you can download and print it.
Wow! What then are you waiting for? Hurry now to pre.cac.gov.ng to register your LLP. And that does it for this week's edition of the program, CAC Weekly. We do hope you enjoyed watching. Remember, for comments and inquiries, you can please take advantage of our social media handles and our helplines. On Twitter, it is CAC Nigeria 1. On Instagram and Facebook, it is Corporate Affairs Commission. Our email is cservice@cac.gov.ng. You can visit our website via www.cac.gov.ng. And our helplines are on the numbers 081 822 99016 or 081 822 98971, 090 874 or 090 874 and 090 Join us again next week for yet another interesting edition of the program. Same time and same station. From me, Amina Jibril, and the rest of the team here, it is bye for now.